Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that the Trump administration is considering another oil release to stabilize fuel prices. We had the full details in today's show. Pennsylvania Democrat John Fetterman came through for the Republicans again yesterday when he bucked his own party and cast a deciding vote to send his colleague, fellow Senator Markwayne Mullin, to the full Senate for a vote to head the Department of Homeland Security. Republican Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders is speaking out over an incident in a restaurant in her home state where she says she was treated rudely and asked to leave by staff while simply having her lunch. And the South Carolina Supreme Court reprimanded Curtis G. Clark, a former foreclosure judge in Greenwood County, South Carolina, citing a Post-Inquirer Uncover report that exposed how Clark allowed his wife and children to buy dozens of properties at the auctions that he was overseeing. It's a busy one. Let's just jump right in.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
So one of the top issues, if not the number one issue on the minds of Americans right now, is that of fuel prices. Now, one of the things that President Trump promised in the 2024 presidential campaign was that if elected, the price of a gallon of gas would come down. And it did. It came down fairly quickly. We've seen some pretty good prices over this past year, only to skyrocket back up after the war in Iran started just a couple of weeks ago. Now, still, if you look at the price of a gallon of fuel right now, it's still better than it was during the 4 years and at the height of the Joe Biden administration. But still, we were starting to kind of get used to lower fuel prices and better prices on some other items as well because of those lower fuel prices. And we all know, and I think this is probably the biggest fear, is that with higher fuel prices, the price of everything we buy is going to go up. And I think we all fear that those prices will continue to increase. They're already high because of COVID, because of Joe Biden, because of the everything that Joe Biden represented. And I think we're all fearful that if they go up even more, we're all just going to hurt that much more. Well, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent yesterday said that the Trump administration is considering a number of different things in their tool belt to try to stabilize oil prices, bring oil prices back down, at least keep them where they are so they don't go up any higher. Mr. Bessent also said that the U.S. may unsanction the Iranian oil that's on the water. It's about 140 million barrels. It was an interesting interview with Maria Bartiromo on Fox News. The secretary was first asked about the overall impact the war in Iran has had in the region and specifically the impact that it's had on oil supplies.
I want to get your take on the impact of this war on Iran. Of course, you are in the middle of this, the intersection of the economy and war, and you've been allowing oil flows from Iran, Russia, of course, what the president did in terms of Venezuela, to try to stabilize prices. But I want to get your take about that in terms of potentially funding our enemies in doing all of this. Is the reality of this oil shock as a result of this war colliding with the president's maximum pressure campaign on Iran?
Not at all, Maria, because it's the president's maximum pressure campaign that started last March against Iran and its oil exports. The customers, their shadow fleet that brought the Iranian economy to its knees in December. They had a very large bank failure. The central bank had to come in, rescue the bank, printed money, caused great inflation, and the people went out onto the streets. And that was the real turning point for this regime. The regime is in trouble. I said last week on another show that they're in Hitler's bunker and Hitler's dead. Well, I can tell you, as of this week, Himmler and Göring are dead too. The leadership has been decapitated, and contrary to what the mainstream media in the U.S. wants you to believe, they are in chaos. They are having trouble communicating, and all these rocket launches that you see are the death throes of a dying regime.
And dying regime is the key there. That's the music to my ears, because President Trump has made it clear that the objective is to totally destroy any military operation that Iran has. Now, Ms. Bartiromo went on to ask about the strategy of completely destroying Iran's military presence, yet not destroying the energy infrastructure that would further disrupt the oil supply.
Yeah, and you know, the escalation overnight and the president tweeting and posting on Truth Social about there will be no more attacks on that very important gas and oil infrastructure in Iran because it triggered Qatar. I feel like there was an escalation. Can you tell us anything about what the president is trying to message out here? He's been very, very direct in terms of obliterating Iran's military infrastructure, but holding back in terms of hitting the oil and gas infrastructure.
Yeah, and Maria, on the military, last night was the biggest night for strikes thus far in this campaign. As we move into days 19 and 20, we keep escalating the military campaign. President Trump wants to have something for the Iranian people on the other side, so we are not attacking their energy infrastructure. On Karg Island, which is the nexus, 90% of Iranian oil comes out of there. We did a precision strike against all the military targets on that island, and none of the energy assets were targeted. So we have allowed Iranian oil to continue out of the Gulf, where some Indian tankers have moved out, some Chinese tankers have moved out.
And I got to say, I've said this over the last few days, over the last couple of weeks, actually, of how proud of our military I am. It's pretty amazing how strategic we can be with our missiles. I mean, you've seen some of the videos, I'm sure, of a military asset, maybe a command center or something, sitting somewhere, and a missile just completely destroys it, but not the thing surrounding it. Finally, the Treasury Secretary talked about the strategy that the Trump administration has and has had from the beginning, knowing the importance of keeping the oil supply flowing. The Secretary says that the U.S. could potentially do another SPR in order to keep the prices stable.
Maria, to be clear, this is a coordinated effort. We had a break the glass plan across the administration and at Treasury. We unsanctioned Russian oil. We knew that there were about 130 million barrels on the water, and we created supply that is beyond the Straits of Hormuz. So we anticipated this. We knew that there could be a temporary, and I want to emphasize temporary, choke point there. And there was 130 million barrels of floating storage. In the coming days, we may unsanction the Iranian oil that's on the water. It's about 140 million barrels. So depending on how you count it, that's 10 days to 2 weeks of supply that the Iranians had been pushing out. That would have all gone to China. In essence, we will be using the Iranian barrels against the Iranians to keep the price down for the next 10 or 14 days as we continue this campaign. So we have lots of levers. We've got plenty more that we can do. The largest coordinated SPR release in history, 400 million barrels, was approved last week, and some countries are going to do more. The U.S. could unilaterally do another SPR release to keep the price down. As you will have noted, WTI and its European counterpart Brent have substantially diverged over the past few trading sessions. They were trading right on top of each other last week. And this is because the U.S., thanks to President Trump in his first term, the continuing efforts here, is virtually energy independent. Yeah. And when President Trump says our allies should join us in a coalition along the Straits of Hormuz, that they're the ones who need this oil. The U.S., we're an oil exporter.
Well, look, I hope that they do another drawdown from the strategic reserves because, again, we just can't afford for these fuel prices to get out of hand again and fuel literally inflation because we've had all we can take. We can't have prices rising rapidly like we've seen over the past few years. GOP shots like Ozempic are everywhere right now, but here's the question. What happens when you stop? If you don't fix the reason your body gained weight in the first place, the weight comes back. Joey Hudson here at PhD Weight Loss. They don't just treat the weight as the problem. They treat it as a symptom of metabolic dysfunction, hormone imbalance, or inflammation. If you don't correct those, no shot or hack will ever last. PhD looks at you holistically to improve your health span, your energy, and your longevity because losing weight is one thing, but keeping it off for life is another. Right now, when you call PhD Weight Loss and mention Joey Hudson, you'll receive 2 free weeks in the program, and they'll cover the cost of your food. That's real results with zero guesswork. Again, mention Joey Hudson when you call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900. Visit them online at myphdweightloss.com. Stop chasing weight. Start fixing what actually is causing it. Call today. Be sure and tell them Joey Hudson sent you. Get you 2 free weeks in the program. 864-644-1900. I kind of thought we had seen this next issue kind of resolve itself. But I guess maybe not. Here's the story. Republican Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders is speaking out over an incident in a restaurant in her home state of Arkansas where she says she was treated very rudely and asked to leave by staff while she was just trying to get some lunch. Sanders said in a statement yesterday, "Last week, I was having lunch with 2 other moms at a restaurant when the owner approached a member of the state police executive protection detail and said my presence made their employees feel threatened and asked us to leave." Arkansas citizens are known for their warm hospitality, and while that restaurant certainly doesn't meet that standard, my administration will continue to focus on lifting the citizens of Arkansas up, not tearing others down with discrimination and hate. Now, Governor Sanders' office said the governor visited the establishment on Friday, March the 13th, along with her security detail. And after about an hour and 15 minutes, during which her group was seated at 2 tables and had already paid and tipped the staff, the restaurant's owner approached a member of the security detail and requested that the governor leave. Her office said the request was made due to concerns that her presence was making employees feel threatened and uncomfortable due to her political views. So at least they didn't try to disguise it. They just came right out and said, we don't like what she stands for, what her beliefs are. Sanders said that her party complied and exited the restaurant. As they were leaving, an individual standing with the restaurant staff shouted for them to go and made a crude hand gesture in the governor's direction. Now, the croissantier released a lengthy statement about the incident to local media, saying that when they first learned she had arrived at the establishment, they were surprised and uncertain how best to respond. Well, hey, I have an idea. If the governor of your state shows up at your restaurant, you serve her. You serve her lunch or dinner or whatever she's there to eat. What do you mean you didn't know how to respond? The statement said, by the time we entered the dining room, she was already seated and eating. At that point, we chose not to interrupt, expecting that the party would complete their meal and depart without issue. Well, they would have had you not interrupted. The restaurant says that as time went on, the governor's security detail became more widely noticed by both employees and guests. Questions were raised about them remaining in the restaurant. They said, as business owners and members of this community, we recognize that any course of action carried consequences. Allowing her to stay risked being perceived as a lack of support for the community that makes up the majority of our team, as well as their families and friends. Conversely, asking her to leave could be viewed as denying service based on differing beliefs. You think if you ask the governor of your state to leave your restaurant because you don't agree with his or her political views, that it could be viewed as denying service based on beliefs? That's exactly what you just did. The restaurant says that they ultimately made the decision to support our employees and guests who expressed they were uncomfortable, but said we do not recall any statements indicating that anyone felt threatened. The restaurant says that 1 hour into the governor's visit, a member of the security detail was quietly approached and asked to encourage the governor to conclude her visit, given she had finished dining. Wow. It said nearly 30 minutes later, the party remained on the premises. As the 90-minute table seating limit approached, the security detail was approached a second time and informed that approximately 10 minutes remained. I guess they were timing her. They have a 90-minute limit on the time you can stay at your table. They said around this time, another customer attempted to involve themselves in the situation and was asked to step away. The restaurant says they reviewed camera footage from the incident and confirmed that a member of the security detail did send a message to the governor following the initial request. However, it was not seen at that time. Once the message was received, she and her party departed without incident. Wow. The restaurant went on to say that many guests in the dining room were unaware of the situation and that there was no applause or disruption. Look, she was there having lunch with her friends. She's the governor of your state. You should be proud that she chose your establishment to come to. The croissantier also claimed that the individual who made an inappropriate hand gesture to Sanders was a customer rather than an employee, and the matter has been addressed. The restaurant said, we regret being placed in this position and having to make a difficult decision. However, we stand by our choice to support our employees and our guests. This is just lame. Wow. Most restaurants would be very proud of the fact of having the governor dine with them. Fox News says they reached out to the restaurant for details on what specifically made the employees uncomfortable, but did not receive a response. A similar incident unfolded in 2018 while Sanders was serving as President Donald Trump's press secretary when she was asked to leave the Red Hen restaurant in Virginia after being told the ownership took issue with her political views and job position. I remember that very well. Sanders tweeted at the time, last night I was told by the owner of Red Hen in Lexington, Virginia to leave because I work for the President of the United States, and I politely left. Her actions say far more about her than about me. I always do my best to treat people, including those I disagree with, respectfully, and will continue to do so. Other Republican targets have been harassed as well at restaurants. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, former Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. I mean, there's been a number of them. And I guess Democrats just think that this is okay. If a Democrat were asked to leave a restaurant, what kind of response you think we'd get? send me a quick note. Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. So Senator John Fetterman was the hero for Republicans yesterday as he crossed party lines to advance his colleague, Senator Markwayne Mullin's nomination to lead the Department of Homeland Security. It was a nail-biting committee vote. Senate Homeland Security Committee Chairman Rand Paul voted against reporting Mullin to the full Senate, but Fetterman voted in favor of sending his colleague to the floor for a final vote. Now, we talked a bit yesterday about the back and forth between Rand Paul and Markwayne Mullins. Senate Majority Leader John Thune told reporters that Mullin would receive a final confirmation vote, hopefully early next week, he said. Now, you'd expect this type of response from the Democrats, and we did from Senator Gary Peters. He's a Democrat from Michigan. He was the top Democrat on the panel and was the only member to speak ahead of the vote, noting that he would reject Mullin's nomination because, in his opinion, quote, he has failed to be forthright and transparent and lacks the experience or the temperament to lead the domestic law enforcement agency. Senator Peters quoted from a Senate Ethics Committee finding on Mr. Mullin relating to the 2023 incident in which the Oklahoma Republican offered to fight Teamsters President Sean O'Brien. This was during a Senate Housing, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee hearing. We all know about it. Rand Paul played the video clip again in the hearing the other day. We've also learned that the Teamsters president, Mr. O'Brien, and Senator Mullins have become friends now. They have buried the hatchet. They have forgiven one another. And they're working for some common causes. Peters read from the findings saying, when offered multiple public opportunities to clarify the intent of your conduct, you declined to uphold the Senate standard and advocated physical violence as a means to resolve political disagreement. You know, he challenged. I mean, I don't know if he was serious. Look, you know, Markwayne Mullin is a wrestling or a championship fighter. Mullin defended his conduct during the hearing on Wednesday, saying that he was simply pointing out some of the rules that still apply to the body. For instance, dueling with two consenting adults is still there. The majority of the Democrats, of course, took issue with that. They've tried to make it a big issue. Senator Rand Paul tried to make it an issue as well. He erupted at Mullin during the hearing for having no regrets about the history of his negative remarks, which also, of course, included, it's kind of personal for Rand Paul. I get that, because Markwayne had sort of made fun of the fact that Senator Rand Paul was attacked in his own front yard and was severely beaten. But I guess it's still not the way that a U.S. senator should be acting. But it looks like he's going to get the nod. I can't imagine that he won't have the votes to confirm the appointment to be the next DHS secretary. This story is what gives judges somewhat of a bad name. You know, there's been a lot of discussion over the years, the most recent years, about how South Carolina chooses its judges. And there's this perception that judges, that there's this whole network of good old boys within the legal system. You've got lawyer legislators who elect the judges and practice in front of the judges. And people just, they have a bad taste in their mouth sometimes about how that plays out. Well, the South Carolina Supreme Court reprimanded a judge this week, Curtis G. Clark. He's a former, and the key word there is former, foreclosure judge in Greenwood County. Citing a Post and Courier uncovered report that exposed how Clark allowed his wife and children to buy dozens of properties at the auctions he oversaw. This opinion was issued on the 18th of this week. The court said that Clark and the Office of Disciplinary Counsel came to an agreement after an investigation. Clark admitted his misconduct and would never again seek judicial duties in South Carolina. The court also issued a public reprimand, which it said was the maximum possible sanction the court could hand out since Clark has already left the bench. Clark did not, of course, respond to requests for comment from the Post and Courier. Now, here's the story. Here's who Curtis Clark is. He has long held a number of different judicial roles, serving as a special referee and master in equity in Abbeville County, as a probate court judge, special referee in Greenwood County since 1987. In foreclosure cases, judges are given the power to force delinquent borrowers from their homes, and they are tasked with selling properties to cover as much of the debt as possible. So in other words, you have someone who's having a tough time. They haven't made their mortgage. And believe me, it's a tough task. It's not like you missed one or two payments and you're thrown out of your house. In order for a bank to seek that foreclosure and to get the foreclosure, this has to be an ongoing situation. I mean, quite often it's gone on for a year or more. And the master in equity oversees that so-called auction. What it actually amounts to is you're in a courtroom, you have the bank there representing their interest, and then you have other investors quite often who are there to potentially buy the properties. In most cases, or in a lot of the cases, the banks end up buying their own properties back. In 2022, the Post and Courier led an uncovered report. It was investigative journalism, if you will, with the Index Journal of Greenwood, detailing how Judge Clark, over his oversight of these auctions, benefited his family. Using real estate records and other public documents, the newspaper showed how Mr. Clark sold more than 36 properties during these auctions to his wife and their adult children. In one case, family members later put land in his name, in the judge's name, making Clark the owner of 33 acres he once ordered foreclosed on. In its opinion released March 18th, the Supreme Court cited the newspaper's uncovered report in 2022, along with then Chief Justice Donald Beatty's swift move a week later to bar Clark from running future foreclosure auctions. He was taken away from this duty, as he should have been. But it would take 4 more years for the court to finish its investigation and release its finding. Didn't happen very quickly. The court said that Mr. Clark's actions created a clear appearance of impropriety. It noted that Clark had provided incomplete information years before to a judicial screening committee about his auctions. In an affidavit, Mr. Clark talked about his 40 years of service as a probate judge, master in equity, and special referee, as well as his role on the state's probate judges advisory committee and as editor of the South Carolina Foreclosure Law Manual. God been doing this for years. For all practical purposes, he's very qualified. I'm just, his ethics are just a little questionable. In the affidavit, Clark expressed remorse and that neither he nor his friends or family ever acted upon any non-public information in connection with an auction, he said. He told the court he planned to retire soon. In its initial uncovered report, the Post and Courier quoted legal observers who said the Clark family's participation in the sales threatened one of the judiciary's central tenets. Judges are instructed to avoid any conduct that creates even the appearance of impropriety, an especially high standard intended to ensure that the public won't doubt whether they're getting a fair shake or not. And I got to say that having your family members in the courtroom bidding on property that you as a judge are overseeing the foreclosure process on, that's that does have clearly an appearance of impropriety. Because particularly in smaller towns like Greenwood, everybody knows everybody. And those attorneys and the participants in those courtrooms when this was happening, they had to have all known that it was the judge's family bidding on the property. Now, whether or not it maybe deterred others from bidding, I don't know. But it does beg the question that maybe others did not bid because they didn't want the judge seeing them bid against his family. And maybe some of these banks or some of the organizations that were foreclosing on the properties, maybe they could have gotten a better price if there had truly been competition in the auction. Because that's how auctions are. That's the beauty of the auctions. You get a couple of people interested in something, and they're back and forth. They get into a bidding war, and the price, you get a better price for it. Jan Jacobowitz, past president of the Association of Professional Responsibility Lawyers, told the newspapers that having your wife buy the properties, if that isn't at least the appearance of impropriety, I'm not sure how else you would characterize it. And she's right. Again, no way that people don't walk out of that courtroom not thinking that something's just not quite right when the judge's wife or children have just bid on the property. You agree? Am I off base here? Look, I'm not sure that just a reprimand is sufficient. Now, this guy, he's already bought the property, probably already made a lot of money off of it, and basically what he's getting now is a slap on the wrist. He's already retired. He'll never be a judge again, but I'm not sure he wants to be a judge again. Wow. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. On our guest line today, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. It was great getting to hang out with you. It was like we took our show on the road last Thursday. It was a lot of fun.
That was a busy day. Of course, we had our normal Thursday visit, and then we were at a forum for the Republican women in Oconee County. That was a great. And by the way, we made the front page of the Journal. Did you see that?
Oh, my goodness. No, my team always scours for that, so I'm sure that they have had it. But I'm glad we made the front of the Journal. Did we look good, Joey?
Well, you did. I'm kind of, yeah. There you go. Everybody out, for themselves here. I kind of had that. I was, just sort of deer in the headlight look. I was dazing off into the wild blue yonder, I guess. But no, we the couple of the ladies from the Oconee Republican Women's Club sent me links, and so we were right on the front page above the fold. So good coverage of that. That was a lot of fun, and then of course we made it over to the. We were both kind of guests on the Pickens local, Ed Lease, and his his podcast. So that was a lot of fun. Look, I got just a small glimpse of what you do every day.
Well, I do love what I do, and that was a great day. Being all around Oconee and Pickens and hearing in that Oconee County Republican Women's Group, what a great group of ladies and men. I mean, they don't discriminate. We had some men in the room. You weren't there by yourself.
Nope. And they, there are two groups. Of course, they have a men's group separately as well. And they support one another. I mean, the men are associate members of the Republican women, and likewise, the women are associate members of the Republican men. And they're just two great groups, and they're passionate about being involved in the issues locally. And they have great meetings, have great guests, and I really enjoy being involved with it. Well,
they do a wonderful job. And then I was at the Pickens County Republican Party that night.
Yep.
Again, a lot of people, very nice, super supportive, big turnout. Sherry Biggs was there, and so was Senator Rex Rice. So I was traveling around with all kinds of important people on Thursday.
Yep. Well, it was lots of busy days like that. Of course, this week, filing open for candidates and to make it official. When are you going to do yours?
So I think we're planning on doing ours next week, and I'm looking forward to formally putting my name on the ballot for the primary, which is like in 82 days. I think. I have a little counter on my phone, so I watch it every day. Yeah.
Well, We've kind of had an idea of who those candidates are because a lot of you, there are five of you who have been campaigning. But we did get a bit of a surprise. I mean, there have been some rumors, but businessman Ram Reddy announced that he's going to be running. Were you expecting that?
There's been talk about that for a while. And so I wasn't completely shocked. And it's like, welcome to the jungle.
Yep.
Is that the way we should be putting, like, welcome to the jungle?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's going to be a great race. The big thing is we need to get everybody out and excited and learning about their candidates, because that's key. You want to elect candidates that have the know-how to do the job. And that's the one thing I've been saying, really since I hit the trail, Joey, is that, if you wouldn't hire somebody to be the CEO of your company, you probably shouldn't elect them to be the CEO of your state. So everybody do your homework and figure out who your candidates are and who you think will bring the most experience to the table to continue to push South Carolina in the direction that we all have been used to seeing it going in.
Right.
A really positive, good direction.
Right. Yeah. We learned yesterday that the South Carolina Supreme Court has ruled that Amazon must pay South Carolina millions in uncollected sales taxes. Now, this specific case that they ruled on could mean $12.5 million, but there are other cases out there, too, that could grow to $277 million. That's a pretty big deal.
That is a huge deal. And, it'll be interesting to see, Amazon is a big company. It'll be interesting to see, if they decide to just take their lumps and abide by what the state Supreme Court says, or if they'll take it and look to push it to the federal Supreme Court. So I guess it's a wait and see. We shouldn't spend the money until we see what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So, of course, that could be a lot of money for taxpayers, a lot of money to go to infrastructure and roads and bridges. So, I mean, the wait is on, Joey, to see how it moves.
Yep. Well, it's and of course that all came from the idea that back in the early 2000s, because this case has been going on for quite some time. The state gave Amazon some incentives for locating some of their warehouses here. They gave them a tax break. But that ended like in, I think it was 2016. And Amazon is arguing that, well, no, it really didn't end then, but the state says, oh, yeah, that was part of the deal. You needed to start paying after 2016. So some big bucks here, and as you said, could mean some money for some roads or whatever the legislature decides should be done with that. One final thing before I let you go, there's a video that I saw on Facebook of you at a shooting range. And you hit all 5 targets. Now, I got to know, was that a first take, or how many times did it take you to do that?
No, that was a first take. It's so funny when I talk about hunting. My boys love to hunt. We've always loved to skeet shoot up here at our farm. Everybody is shocked, maybe because they always see me in a dress and heels. They just it's a hard switch to make. But now I think I even impressed our friends at Belton Shooting Range. They were like, "Wow, it was a lot of fun. Got to shoot a bunch of different guns." And so they were also a great group. Came out on Saturday, full house, got to talk to them about all the things going on around our state, and again, got to shoot some guns. So I hope I impressed all of our gun enthusiasts.
Well,
that video was a lot of fun.
Well, it was very impressive to see you. I mean, just bam, bam, bam. You took all 5 of them out just that quick. And the Belton Gun Club is just an amazing place. They're part of the United States Practical Shooting Association. I'm a member of that association, and they do some great gun safety training and that type of thing. But anyway, I'm impressed with that. And if I see you with a gun, I'm going to stay out of your way.
Well, Joey, I wish you would have came out. It would have been fun to shoot with you. But I learned about all the, they do tactical games.
Yep.
They do like a cowboy competition, kind of Old West themed, which I thought was really neat. We may have to do that one day, me and you, since you're a member. I'll go out with you. We'll set up for the cowboy competition.
Yep, that would be a lot of fun for sure. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott, always a pleasure. Have a good one.
Thanks so much, Joey. You guys too.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.